I'm excited because I have Melinda G from MG Holistics, my sidekick, my ride or die, and my co-host. And let me tell you, she's going to continue with what she left off last week. And I learned so much about things I had no idea. Melinda, please continue with what you left us hanging with last week.
Oh my goodness. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for having me. And before I begin, I'm going to actually have to once again say that I'm not here to claim to treat or cure any disease or condition nor replace medical care. I am going to refer to a number of studies. I am going to make it very clear that these are from PubMed.gov. These are from a medical database. These are peer reviewed. So anything that I refer to are not going to be my claims, nor am I making claims on any modalities that I work with in my office. So I just want to make sure I put that out there before I begin. And I also want to stress how important it is for everybody to, if you did not see last week's show, that they catch up, because I'm really not going to have the time to reiterate everything that I said last week. And there's some super valuable information that I happened to tell everyone last week. So please go to MG Holistics. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and catch up and see that last show, because there's a lot of super valuable information there. But so I'm going to start on the main points. So I am really discussing the secrets to health, longevity, anti-aging, disease, and it all boils down to the cell. And it boils down to oxidative stress. And one thing I said last week, because I was trying to explain this in a way so people could understand. Now, one of the main issues with oxidative stress is something called ROS, which stands for reactive oxidative species. And to try to understand that in relation to oxidative stress, I refer to that as a foreign invader. And a lot of people might think that no, in the healthcare industry, well, wait a second, ROS is actually essential in cellular processes, which, yes, that's true. However, the problem is we are so bombarded with oxidative stressors that most everybody has elevated ROS. So we are actually at war with ourselves. Now, when I say that, wow, doesn't that kind of sound like autoimmune disease? Okay, so, but that's something I'm going to throw out there, and now I'm going to bring it back. Another thing I was mentioning is how there's so many things that are connected. And I'll say like A equals B. And when I say that, means that they are so connected that you can mix them in and you're still going to get the same result. And so right now I'm going to go back real quick. Oxidative stress, inflammation, but now I'm going to bring in ROS, inflammation, elevated ROS, right? Now we're going to bring in, so we know that oxidative stress, or for those that saw last week, no, oxidative stress is the number one issue when it comes to aging, disease, all kinds of health conditions out there. Inflammation and cancer is a big one. And everything boils down to the cell. Now, one thing I left out here, which I did not bring full circle, which I will be bringing today, is microcirculation. But what we do know is that microcirculation feeds those cells. Those microvessels are so minute, they taper down. And those microvessels are what feed. It's actually where you have cell, so you have blood tissue profusion. That's actually what is feeding the cells. And when I say that, I am referring to epithelia. I'm referring to tissue cells. And epithelia, that is what coats our organs. That is huge. But I'm also going to say it's part of our epidermis. So that is something that later on people are going to be able to visualize, because it's something more superficial. And this is where I think the beauty aspects are going to come together, but I'm not going to get there quite yet. So I'm going to back it up now. So now we know that oxidative stress is a killer. It is. It creates cancer. That's huge. So now I want to bring up some of these studies. But before I do that, I want to make it also very clear that I have so much respect for the medical field. So I want to make sure that when I bring some of these issues in, that this is not geared towards the medical field nor pharmaceuticals, because they have saved my life. Okay, and the doctors, I respect you, and the nurses, and all the clinicians and physicians, and all out there. I respect the ones with the heart in the right places, the compassion, and the ones and your knowledge and dedication. However, there are certain things here that we cannot ignore. So last week, now I brought in what causes the oxidative stress, and we had some of the ones out there: sleep deprivation, the electronics. And I kind of jumped over synthetics. You know why? Because this is a big one, and I knew I didn't have time for it. But okay, we had our obvious synthetics that were mentioned last week, and that's the GMOs. Okay, we've got the GMOs. We've got the sweeteners, the artificial sweeteners, all the artificial things. I mean, that's all synthetic. Okay, we've got all our food colors. We have all those things that are out there that are synthetic. But the one thing I really didn't mention are the pharmaceuticals. And I have a long list. So once again, how I mentioned that I'm going to refer to some of these studies. This is there. This is validated. I'm not just making these claims. But one thing we can no longer ignore is, so now we know, if you look at these studies, we've got oxidative stress. We've got the cancers. We've got all these things. Oxidative stress creates cancer. Oxidative stress creates autoimmune disease. Oxidative stress, almost everything out there. If you do the research, there's pages and pages and pages of it. I actually thought about printing some stuff out, but I didn't have enough paper or print, or ink rather. So, but it's big. So now you also when you do the research, or when I did my research, oxidative stress and pharmaceuticals, drug-induced oxidative stress, drug-induced cancer, aka drug-induced is pharmaceuticals. So I'm not attacking the pharmaceutical industry. However, there is an issue here that needs to be addressed, because why are we treating oxidative stress issues with oxidative stressors?
No comment from the peanut gallery. Okay,
well, I think I kind of know why. Because this is not an attack on the doctors and nor the pharmaceutical industry, because there is well, first of all, we wouldn't need to have these things if we focused on the cell early on and took care of ourselves. Another thing is the physicians, they are bound to research. Now, I'm going to bring up another issue, because there's not just the issue in the pharmaceutical world. Now, I have a clinical nutrition degree, but I make sure I do the research. So anything I implement in my office has all kinds of research and studies to back it up from a national database of a medical literature that is verified and scrutinized and peer reviewed. So anything that I bring in has that backing with it. However, not everybody in the holistic world does. So there is also an issue in the holistic world, which is I'm going to mention. I'm actually, when we have more time next week, which I'm super excited about our show next week, but I'm just going to throw out there that I experienced something where somebody wanted me to get involved with a supplement, and I literally flew out of state because of this so-called doctor, supposed doctor, I should say. And it wasn't long before I realized that he was targeting diabetics with a supplement that was not, it was actually very high vitamin A that wasn't even listed. And that it can be detrimental. That's a fat soluble vitamin, can be very detrimental. So there are times when people don't know what they're doing, and that is why I think there's resistance. That is why it's so huge that Eastern and Western medicine needs to come together, because we need your brain. We need the doctors out there to be on board, because we don't want people out there that don't know what they're doing. And it's time that I think they open their eyes, because you can't ignore it. The studies are there. Not only are the studies there, but the pharmaceutical industry, now, not all of them. There's not all of them. Like I said, they have saved my life on more times than once. But it's known. It's in there. Once again, to do the study, do the research. It's pharmaceutical industry is actually, this is another one. They are actually known to have paid the highest. We're talking billions of dollars in criminal fines. Criminal, knowingly, willingly caused harm. So it's time that we wake up and we don't give so much trust in an industry that may not have our best interest. So now when I say,
which is never reported. I mean, it's the first time of me hearing of that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. We have to have our due diligence. We're responsible for ourselves. So it's time that we get out there. Now, when I say do your own research, I am absolutely not, positively not saying to self-diagnose yourself and self-treat yourself. Absolutely not. We need the doctors, but we need more and more doctors on board with holistics and with natural remedies, because now I'm going to get back to why the studies aren't there. Okay, so most of these pharmaceuticals, or a lot of these pharmaceuticals, were derived from natural sources, natural formulations. However, the money's not in. You can't patent these. So they're in laboratories making synthetic versions. I mean, come on, think about GMOs. We've got all these wonderful, natural, God-given fruits and vegetables and things out there, but now we're modifying things. It's crazy. So the same thing's happening in the pharmaceutical world. So our bodies are not synthetic. Of course, it's going to create oxidative stress because our bodies are natural. So they're going to consider anything synthetic as being invaders, because it's common sense. But the problem is the physicians, they're bound to looking at these studies. Where's the money coming from to pay for these studies? Because it's not. So if I could put together and we could start focusing more on holistic based, all natural alternatives, that would be huge. But I don't want to go too far down this avenue here. But I just want to put that out there, that is a huge oxidative stressor. So it is so important to focus on cellular health before you have a symptom that develops, because doctors now in their defense, if we go to a doctor and we have our issue, well, once we've reached the doctor's office, we have had probably years and years of dysfunctional cell building up, which remember, are oxidative stresses and creating inflammation. Oxidative stress and inflammation are tied together. So by the time we've reached the doctor's office, we have had years of causing dysfunction to our cells. Now, inflammation, pain, inflammation, oxidative stress, and then remember microcirculation over here. Well, the microcirculation is feeding those cells oxygen, nutrient delivery, and pulling out the toxins. Well, pain and inflammation is relative to lack of oxygen. So all this is so completely tied together. So by the time you get there, and if the doctor would say, okay, well, here, focus on your cells and come back in 6 months, you probably wouldn't be too happy. But that's where we need to put this on ourselves and realize we have to have patience, because a lot of times we're looking for those quick fixes. Mm-hmm. Well, those quick fixes are just treating that symptom. Well, we've got all these issues, these cellular oxidative stressors, that they're not going to go away. They're just going to continue to build up. So if you're trying to treat what's on top, you're going to eventually have an explosion. So that is why I just want to emphasize how important taking care of yourself and oxidative stressors is for your overall health and well-being. Now I want to get to, and I'm going to mention, this is a quick story, but this is the only way I think I can really emphasize everything in relation to this, is my mom. So my mom, 13 years ago, passed away from cancer. And probably approximately a year before she passed away, she happened to mention to me, we were on a phone conversation, oh my gosh, I've just been diagnosed with, or I've just been given this new medication for osteoporosis, but it has a risk of cancer. So at least she knew. And, in hindsight, I wish I begged her not to take it. But of course, that's my mom. She's going to do what she's going to do. So it wasn't even within a year, she was covered in cancer. Didn't even know it. She lasted a month and a half after being diagnosed. But the reason I'm bringing this up is, so yes, I'm focused. Gosh, why didn't I stop her from taking that medication? But then my clinical nutrition backed me up and said, well, wait a second. Started from the cell. My mom loved her soda. She loved her. It was her diet vanilla Coke. Okay, now I'm going to back this up just so you guys can visualize this. You've got your soda, phosphorus. It's going to deplete the bones of calcium and lead to osteoporosis right there. Bam. You got your caramel colors, cancer. Look it all up. It's all in the research. Okay, now you've got the caramel colors. Oh, you've got remember the sweeteners, the artificial sweeteners, cancer. So now we go on. We've got that there. So now I realized, wait a second, Now, at the time when she was diagnosed, then we were dealing with some major, major stress. Remember, and creates that also is going to create the oxidative stress and the cancer loves the acidic state. So the cancer is going to grow in that acidic state. So that's another thing there. Then now we're going to move on and we're going to go towards, so then my mom, so now she's got, it was like she was brewing. That was a storm brewing. So it just goes to show you all these oxidative stressors, what it can create. Now, I have so much more to tell you, but since I'm running out of time, what I want to implement is the importance of the being able to reach the oxidative stressors in the cell is through the microvessels. So as I mentioned before, we have all these stressors here, but what is going to feed the cells is the microvessels and how essential they are. So I have a supplement that I had mentioned before, which of course has all the clinical research and backing. So that is I have a supplement that decreases oxidative stress 40% in 30 days. That is huge. So I have so much more to let you know, but this is so huge when it comes to cellular health and taking care of oxidative stress. And we are going to reach what this is going to do on a beauty level next week. We are going to touch on so much more, but I just wanted to really get that out there so you understood the importance of avoiding the synthetics and trying to take care of your cells early on in life before it gets to that point.
Well, I mean, Melinda, you've got information galore, and next week you'll have, of course, more time, and that way we'll just continue and further this. But I've got to mention, I'm wearing this outfit for those who can see it, and it's brand new, and it was $6.